I want to bring in the former U.S. Comptroller General David Walker and OnDeck Capital's CEO Noah Breslow. Great to have both of you guys back on the show. Noah, I want to start with you because you work with small business owners and you lend them money. I mean, what is their attitude right now? How do they feel?
Well, you know, we lend money to over 700 different industries of small business owners, and what we've seen is that there's real diversity here with regards to their opinion on the minimum wage. Many small businesses are already paying their employees more than minimum wage. So you think about doctors, electricians, and plumbers and industries like that, skilled trades and so forth. But what you also see is at the other end of the spectrum, folks who rely more on minimum wage employees are going to have to make real adjustments if the minimum wage were to go up. Yeah.
David, I mean, what did you think of what you heard from Jody?
Well, let's do some math.
Yeah.
The president is proposing a 39% increase in the minimum wage. That's only one component of compensation. It clearly will have an impact. You know, we're much better off to try to deal with our disease, which is our dysfunctional education system, our inadequate training programs, and to augment the earned income tax credit if you want to try to help people who are below an acceptable level of income. But merely by raising the minimum wage is unrealistic, and frankly, I think an example of how we have too many people in government today that have never had a job in the real world and don't really know how it works.
Yeah, I mean, and David, I would just ask you, Jody was saying, you know, he laughed when I said that, you know, they say if you're running a business, you should be paying your people living wages, you know, just take it out of your profits, and he looked like, you know, he wanted to tear his hair out.
If government was a business, it would be out of business, okay? And so the fact of the matter is, you know, it's really somewhat of an irony that we call it the State of the Union, because what it is it's a short-term set of political and policy priorities rather than an honest, strategic, and comprehensive assessment about where we are as a country, how do we compare to others, and what do we need to do to create a better future. That's what we need.
Yeah. Noah, you actually conducted a poll that found that most businesses would move their workers to part-time or would cut back on hours if they had to raise their wages. What did that tell you? What did it say specifically?
It was really interesting. We did put a poll up on our Facebook page and got a lot of different responses. So some business owners would compensate by eliminating hiring at the lower end of the wage scale, or potentially cutting corners and or raising prices to customers. But I will say there were a lot of comments to the contrary, saying either they were supportive of folks making a minimum wage, and I think what was interesting is the restaurant owners spoke about the shutdown in D.C., and we saw the same thing in our business. That shutdown really negatively affected business owners in the Washington, D.C. area. But conversely, if federal workers have more money in their pocket, they're going to be spending it at small businesses in the D.C. area. So we really do see a balanced perspective here, and historically small business owners have always been kind of split on this issue.
I guess, but I mean, David, the money that's in the pocket of those federal workers when they get the wage, where does that come from? I mean, it comes from taxpayers all around the country who would have spent it somewhere else. It has to come from somewhere, right?
Yeah, it comes from taxpayers, and the fact of the matter is the average education level and the average compensation level for federal workers is way above average, especially when you consider retirement benefits, pension, retiree health care benefits, and things of that nature. They're doing pretty well for a very secure job as compared to a typical American.
David, what is one thing that the president could have said last night, one program he could have put into action that would make a difference to get the economy going again? Because it's very easy to sit around and talk about what won't work. But what is one thing that would make a difference right now?
Well, first, we need to have a plan. This country has no plan. We have no strategic goals and objectives, but ultimately we need comprehensive tax and regulatory reform. We have to do that. We've got to provide more certainty and stability for people to feel confident about investing in the future. And we got to quit kidding ourselves. You can't just treat the symptoms, you got to treat the disease. We've got real problems with regard to our education system. We've got real problems with regard to our critical infrastructure. We've got real problems in that we're spending too much on consumption, not enough on investment. And yet people are celebrating the fact that we've reduced the deficit in half, but in fact haven't done what we have to do to deal with the much bigger ones that lie ahead. Okay. It's time to get real.
Gentlemen, thanks to both of you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, crooks are getting even craftier.